Alright, time for another draftphysics.com, debatephysics.com also. I probably should put that somewhere in here. Anyway, yes, just another comment video on entropy. Some more entropy talk. I really thought this would be just a dead subject. It's just so obvious that it's just silly to say that there's only one cycle happening in the universe, and that is big momentum turns into little tiny momentum, and it never goes back the other way again. It's so ridiculous. So anyway, I thought of another part of that. So before I read the very long comment that I haven't read all of it yet, it just seems like somebody's trying to prove, and so okay, I'll give him credit, typed a whole bunch of crap, so I'll read it and deal with it. But I mean, this is just not a for sale kind of thing. You can't sell this. All right, but I did think about the gravity thing, right? Because physics doesn't think gravity is energy. Okay, it's bent space, right? So it's not like you're transferring momentum to something with some legitimate type force. And the trick is, okay, is the fact is that the stuff that's given momentum by gravity and goes into the earth, this is actual objects with momentum. I mean, they have real MV. They're given real energy. And the real energy ends up being dissipated as heat. So, technically they're saying, unless you don't think heat is energy, the problem with this theory is that the heat, okay, isn't obstructed by gravity coming out. So this is free energy. This is making energy. So you say you believe in conservation of energy. Well, how can you be conserving it when you're making essentially free photons? You're giving matter momentum. Momentum pushes into the earth gets hot, and it radiates heat to the rest of the universe. And there's no creator of the, this is new energy. It's not some piece of energy that came into the earth and then another piece came out. That's not what's happening. You're creating a new piece of energy. You're giving a piece of matter momentum. The momentum creates pressure. The pressure creates heat. The heat dissipates into the universe. So you're saying that every sun is basically generating new energy into the universe. So they haven't even thought that far ahead. All right, so the simple argument I would make is the force in the universe, the energy, only has two forms, okay? It's either this EM stuff, whether we can detect it or not, some discrete bit of energy, okay, on that spectrum, or invisible, broken photons. It's a real thing. Anyway, so it's free. It's going the speed of light, or it's occupied, being possessed by a piece of matter. So the energy can only be in two places. It's either pushing matter or it's flying through space the speed of light. And that's the only two things it can possibly be doing at any one moment. It's only the two states that energy comes in. And the simple argument is quite obvious. Yes, the sun radiates energy, but where does all of the sun's energy go? It hits something. And what happens when it hits something? Well, yeah, it does this gravity thing. It pushes in, makes pressure, and heats it. Simply put. Consolidates matter and energy in a small location. Makes atoms even. That's what suns are doing, making atoms. All right. That's low entropy, by the way. So, I mean, obviously, that's the cycle. And that's all it does. You make low entropy, it catches fire, it shoots the stuff back at high entropy, and then it gets compressed again and just keeps recycling. And obviously gravity is an essential part of that process. But the argument I would make is if you could see gravity, if you could see the force causing gravity, it would look just like photons, frankly. It's the same little discrete stuff moving the speed of light. That's why gravity moves at the speed of light. It's because that's what it is. It's just like all the other forces. It's all the same stuff. All you're saying is a photon is a pattern in the stuff. And magnetism is another pattern in the stuff. And that's all you can do is make patterns in the stuff. And when the stuff doesn't have a pattern, it's pushing matter into the center of objects in space. So this is, to me, this is not even a complicated subject. Like I said, if there's just absolutely no evidence that the universe has more trouble making a star than it has breaking a star. That somehow one is more difficult than the other, or that only one of them can happen more often, or any kind of crap like that. So it's just a silly argument. And it doesn't have any any mathematical precision, this idea of entropy. So anyway, let's read the crap. But I mean, it's just... So see, I should say, yeah, so in the mentions, there's a mindless marble post. And he says, oh, where'd it go? I guess he deleted it. So he says, why don't I Google all the answers to my argument that gravity breaks entropy. It's the exact opposite of entropy. And I should just Google for all the answers. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why don't you just give me one of the answers? Just give me one good answer why gravity isn't in massive amounts consuming entropy, making the universe less entropic, if that's a word. Yeah, but he deleted it. Coward. Alright. This is so bad. This planet is just disgraceful. Alright. So, like I say, look, the guy wrote all this stuff. I try to take it somewhat seriously, but come on. And it's always got this silly premise built in here that somehow I don't understand. Yeah, I'm saying overtly right to your face. Yeah, I don't understand things that don't make sense. That's a talent I have, is I don't understand shit. Okay. The question is how gravity doesn't reduce entropy is a question many people have as they are learning physics. So I'm just saying that where? I don't even see that conversation anywhere. I haven't seen a single entropy video, right, so far, the ones I've played especially, that give it any credit at all. I mean, even acknowledge the existence of gravity in the universe. I mean, the Al-Kahari video has, it's like it doesn't even exist, like gravity doesn't even happen. He doesn't even think fat cells happen. Like he thinks even our bodies are completely dissolving into entropy, that we don't build muscle and we don't build, you know, all the structures that are being built by your body. We just get hot. We don't do anything else with the energy. We don't store it anywhere. We don't build anything out of it. All right. Intuitively, you are thinking that we start in a state that has many particles evenly spread out across space. No, I don't. I make no premises about any starting position. I don't give a fuck about a starting position, asswipe. I don't pretend to know what happened maybe even trillions of years ago. I mean, frankly, we don't know. I mean, obviously the Big Bang had to happen more than 13 billion years ago, or we couldn't see a galaxy that's 13 billion years old because it wouldn't be a galaxy yet. So obviously the Big Bang had to be a lot longer ago than that. But even that you can't make sense out of the drivel science physicists talk. I mean, even simple things like that, they have continuity problems. And you just say right away, well, that's a continuity problem. The galaxy didn't fly out of the Big Bang. It took a very long time for the Big Bang to cool down enough to form a galaxy. So you know it's not 13 billion years ago. All right, anyway. It's evenly spread across space, but and over time, due to gravity, these particles are attracted to each other, making a system that seems more structured. No, I don't believe any of that shit. Okay, I don't think there was ever a state of the universe where everything was evenly spread out, and all of a sudden gravity just poofed into existence. Boom! There's gravity. I don't think that happened. The whole thing probably had to evolve, because I sort of believe in the idea that the process gets simpler as you go down. Okay, the little tiny cruddy simple life forms evolve into the more complex, and the universe evolved from something simple into something pretty goddamn ginormous. But anyway, this is a good intuition on checking the case of where your understanding of entropy makes sense. I don't, whatever that sentence even means. I don't really appreciate you presuming I have stated some starting position. I don't necessarily believe in a Big Bang. I don't necessarily believe the universe had matter and all of a sudden force showed up. I haven't made any of those assumptions. I'm just saying the universe we have right now that we can glean some evidence from, there's no evidence that the universe is killing more stars than it is making. So with that argument alone, I can say, well, where's your entropy? Okay. The issue with the conclusion is that you are viewing entropy as just a description of the physical location of particles. So more nonsense. I mean, I couldn't make it any more explicit. The center of the Earth is molten. Why is it molten? You think it just melted 4 billion years ago and it just stayed melted for no reason? It's molten because it's under extreme pressure caused by gravity. Without gravity, it's not melted anymore. Oh, god damn. Which is not the whole view of the disorder, of what disorder means. Well, the whole view of what disorder means isn't the subject of entropy as brought up by Carnot. So, Carnot didn't say anything about disorder. He said something about the fact that it spreads, that it diverges, that it becomes uncollectible. Means in terms of entropy. Let's consider a simple example first to help build intuition on this thought process. I'm really not interested in any concept of building intuition, so that you can also, you know, you can do something hopefully unpleasant with it, because I really have no interest in having a conversation about intuitions. The subject is, what is their evidence demonstrating? And do you have any real evidence to demonstrate the universe is falling apart? That it's liquefying or something? How does building a skyscraper not reduce entropy? By following the same logic as before, we start out with stones, metal, and other basic... Oh, this is not going to be a good analogy. And we ended up with a very structured building, clearly more ordered than the individual components. But how did these materials get to the point of forming a building? Yeah, well, the fact is gravity makes buildings, okay? It makes planets. And yeah, okay, they don't have windows, they don't have all that crap, but they're just as completely lacking of entropy as the skyscraper. So that's just a truth. Okay, a planet is just the same thing, and it isn't. You don't need any. I don't have to do bulldozers. I don't have to use cranes. I don't have to use any complex tools. I just throw some shit into the universe, and the shit will do it all on its own. All right. They needed to be moved from the Earth, costing energy. Well, it doesn't cost any energy. Again, where's the energy cost of the moon orbiting the Earth, right? It doesn't cost any energy. It doesn't cost any energy for an asteroid to crash into the Earth. It doesn't cost any energy. So again, more nonsense. They need to be transported from the original location. So again, obviously gravity is not this analogy. Gravity doesn't... There's no transportation cost. Gravity does it completely for free. Okay, burning fuel and costing energy. So again, your analogy is garbage. Alright, they need to be appropriately shaped. Again, we're not talking about any of that crap. We're not talking about the Earth looking like the man in the moon or something. Alright, so this is just bullshit. The universe doesn't care about making some sort of, you know, pouring chocolate into a mold so it looks like Bugs Bunny. It's not doing that. I.e., building of concrete breaks requires immense heat to make the materials costing energy. So again, more nonsense. It costs no energy for an asteroid to crash into the Earth. They need to be hoisted into place using cranes. So again, all bullshit. So the structure of the building came at a cost of energy from elsewhere. So there's no cost of energy from elsewhere to create a planet. All of the stuff that happens because they have their momentum, and gravity, okay, gives them a direction, okay, and it ends up being, Earth is the target. Mostly from the burning of fuel and using human energy. So this is just all more bullshit. The takeaway here is that I'm using a very fake analogy. So they call this red herrings, and they call this, pointless distraction, and straw man, deflection. The takeaway here is that I think it's hopefully clear that the overall entropy of the system has increased. So there's no increase in entropy when gravity consolidates matter. It's exactly the opposite. No energy is required. It's consuming the energy and piling it into one place all by itself, okay? There's no entropy caused by the process. The process is exactly the opposite. It's a vacuum cleaner. It's cleaning the entropy. It's disposing of the entropy without using any energy. But when we look at it, just the location of the building materials, the entropy has seemed to decrease. Well, it didn't seem to decrease, okay? It actually does decrease in the case of the cleaning, the vacuuming of the material by a gravitational well. It cleans the environment perfectly. It sucks out a bunch of its entropy. Just a fact. I mean, it's a terrible analogy. This tells us that that considering just the location of particles is not enough to describe the disorder of a system. So, and this whole thing is kind of silly because the whole point of the entropy is to suck energy into a consolidated form, and an Empire State Building isn't that anyway. So you're not even on the energy subject. So back to the question on gravity. How is it not breaking entropy? It's consuming the entropy. It's eliminating it. It's anti-entropy, clearly. A powerful anti-entropy force is the only right, accurate, reasonable, fair way to describe it. It's a hugely powerful anthroponetic force. Alright, it is like building he's back to the skyscraper. He didn't change the subject at all. But where is the burning of fuel? It comes from many various forms of radiation. A bunch of particles uniformly spread out will not emit any radiation. Says you. Everything in the universe is emitting radiation, but it's really just the radiation that hit it. The Earth emits radiation. Well, where did it get the radiation from? Oh, it got it because something hit it and it bounced off of it. It eventually was re-radiated. It was absorbed, kept for a while, and then re-radiated. That's what every single thing in the universe is doing, including electrons. But as stars form, chemical reactions occur and emit energy. So again, and a tiny amount compared to what they actually have stored. A tiny amount per day, right? The sun can burn for billions of years. All right, this can be thought of as firing of concrete bricks in the analogy. No, it can't. It's just the analogy is garbage. All right, if you make the analogy, you make a battery, or you fill the battery full of energy from a reservoir. No, instead you choose some ridiculous analogy. The star produces light of various wavelengths of radiation sent to the universe. Right, and exactly. And where does it end up? Back in a star, back in a planet, back in some material object. This can be thought of as a burning of fuel. Plants will form with immense radiation from their heat. Where did you get this from? Who would write this? All of this crap. I mean, it doesn't quite sound like it was cut and pasted. I mean, he actually sits there and is writing this as if I need to hear all this mush. Can be thought of as as hoisting the building blocks into place. Every structure you see. So again, he's just ignoring the simplicity of gravity. It does one thing. It takes matter that's out here and it turns it into matter here and heat here. So it takes stuff moving with momentum, energy, out here, and it turns into a little thing here. Oh, God. Every structure, gravity only, let's see. Every structure you see being built under gravity is only occurring from the sole observation of the location of the particles, not considering the disorder of the energy system. What the fuck could that mean? But not considering the disorder of the energy of the system. So again, he's just playing this disorder game. It's not about disorder. The whole point of Carnot's argument is that the energy is dissipating into a form that's hard to collect. Oh, brother. Now I intend to create an analogy. Oh. We just did that. You're not very good at it. Now I intend to create an analogy to help grasp the concept, but you might start trying to think of ways that this energy could be saved. What energy? Or how do we know that the disorder of the energy being lost from radiation is greater than that created by the plants? So now he's doing this nonsense, has nothing to do with it. I mean, the plants are just another example of storage, non-entropy. They take the chaos of the sun's radiation and convert it into little packets of biological energy. Well, intuition starts to reach its limits at this point. Oh, fuck you. You need to be able to quantify these values and compute what is happening. So you haven't even correctly understood what energy is in the universe, as I pointed out. What is the energy? The momentum that a rock is given, okay, by gravity. How have you accounted for where it came from? What energy did it use? Okay. I don't think a YouTube comment is the greatest place to do many of the derivations. There's no place worthy of these useless, and they might as well just be lies of your fake mathematical formulas. They're fake. You don't quantify anything real. Any asshole can look at even the nuclear bombs. If you really go look, they just make up the number. Yeah, it's 10 kilotons. They just make it up. They don't really know. And I likely would not do it justice. But here's a website that does exactly that. Yeah, fuck you. Anyway. We have a link. Good. So we'll go to the link, but we know it's a waste of time. He derives the entropy must be increasing under gravity. So it's just such a silly remark. Gravity takes no energy from the universe except the energy it ends up, giving momentum to all of these objects and consolidating them. So, but it clearly cleans the space of all of the spreading. And so to call it I just can't even imagine how you could call that an increase in entropy. I've just taken a very cluttered space full of pieces of matter moving in all kinds of directions, and I've just cleaned the space entirely. And that's more entropy? Ridiculous. But leaves the end as an open question to the reader on where the entropy is increasing. Well, the whole point is we're talking about the universe, so who cares? The point is if the universe has got a big bunch of suns in it, is it less entropic than if I took all of those molecules and all of those atoms and spread them all over the universe going in all kinds of directions? And the simple answer is, duh, yeah. My comment has boiled that answer for you as the entropy is being increased through radiation. So what? Just more nonsense. I'm sorry, that's nonsense. Radiation you made from what? From where? Where did it come from? Oh yeah, that's right, it was free energy from gravity. Hopefully this helps with understanding entropy. It doesn't say a damn thing. It's just convoluted mush. You people are just so despicably evil. I mean, to make this silly argument, to defend something you have no evidence is actually happening in the universe. There's absolutely no evidence that the universe is falling apart. No evidence. Zero. Zero fucking evidence. Let's see. If you weren't careful, you might think that gravity could violate the second law of thermodynamics. What do we mean violated? It clearly doesn't behave consistent with any law that little force can't turn into big force. In the sense of you can't go the reverse direction. Spread out energy, consolidated energy. It clearly does that. Okay. Start with a bunch of gas in outer space. Suppose it is homogeneously. So why do they keep doing this? How could you start that way? I mean, you got to concede that, well, the starting point has to be something that had gravity in it. So how did I ever make this? How did I ever spread this butter if the butter wants to stay in a clump? Okay, if it's big enough, it will start clumping up thanks to gravitational self-attraction. So there's no whatever self-attraction means. So this is a guy who's supposed to be a physicist. Self-attraction. So starting from a complete disorder, it looks like we're getting some order. It's not about it looks like. It's an absolute fact. All right, that you're taking something spread out, diverging, and creating a convergence. Okay. Doesn't this mean that the entropy of the gas is dropping precipitously? Okay. Well, it's a bit trickier than you might think. No, it isn't. First of all, you have to remember that the gas cloud heats up as it collapses gravitationally. Everything heats up. So what? Yeah, right. It's still absorbing energy that was in the universe. Okay, the clumping means you know more and more about the positions of the atoms in the cloud. Oh, this is going to be some sort of Heisenberg crap. But the heating up means you know less and less about their velocities. So obviously you have to have pretty good velocities to be hot. Oh, I mean, this is ridiculous. So there are two competing effects. Obviously there's no competing effects. And the fact is that it ends up getting stored. It's trapped. The heat is trapped in the earth. The heat is trapped inside the sun. It's trapped. Okay, it's not obvious which one wins. I mean, a tiny bit is leaking out of the sun, right? Just a tiny fraction of the sun's potential energy. Let's do a little calculation, see how much this works. There won't be any point, okay. The trick is to keep things simple so we can easily see what's going on. So that's just more, so he's going to use idealization. So idealizations where you take out all the parts you don't want to pay any attention to and just keep the parts you want to pay attention to. How convenient. All right, so there's really no point in going through all this stuff. It does have some cubes in it and squares in it. So what a pile of crap. So K equals momentum divided by 2. I don't think it does. Okay. We'll assume the ball of some ideal gas with a volume V. So, yeah, whatever. They should use something real. Like just explaining when the solar system was being formed. And, it had whatever. 1,000,000 times more stuff in the solar system, and all of that stuff had to be turned into the planets, and the rest went into the sun, presumably. Okay, but anyway, yeah, we won't bother with this nonsense. So anyway, it's not a counter argument. It's clearly a perfectly consistent to understand it as a system of moving in a circle. The energy goes full circle all the time. It's constantly just migrating between being free energy, EM radiation. The EM radiation eventually hits a piece of matter and moves it, giving it momentum. And then the piece of matter ends up colliding with other matter, getting hot, and the EM radiation is again released, and it cycles over and over and over and over and over again, and there's absolutely no good reason to believe the universe is in any having any net energy crisis. Yeah. And especially considering they don't even consider gravity real energy. So the fact is the universe is constantly getting more free energy from gravity. Because again, the material momentum is being converted into radiation, and there wasn't any radiation that created the material momentum. So they've basically, like I said, they're creating more energy in the universe constantly with gravity. So gravity is not only doing what I'm saying, but from their own theory of bent space, they're getting this huge creation of more heat in the universe to keep things going. So there's no chance of a heat death in that circumstance. So just crap. I just, the bullshit that people will, pull out of their ass to defend a silly, stupid, rotten piece of crap theory. I mean, any piece of nonsense from their Bible. These old dogmas. And it's just a silly dogma. It's just silly to sit there and say, because, water flows downhill, I can never, restore it to uphill. There's no mechanism in the universe that could ever put it back up the hill. And of course there are mechanisms. And of course the universe is built into it an entropy vacuum, which is gravity. Alright. I mean, it's stupid to call it entropy. It's force. The force can be pushing a gigantic thing. Then the force looks big and it's easy to follow. Or the force is in the form of the little tiny stuff, the little stuff that's going to give stuff momentum, the photons, for example. And the energy just goes from being photons that are going to hit something to being the something being moved by the photons, and then that something being moved by the photons crashes into something and gives back a bunch of photons. I mean, it's just not complicated. And they've perverted all of physics into this crap, this dogma. That's all it is, religious dogma.